Welcome to this explainer. Today we are jumping straight into part 2 of a highly acclaimed 10-part tutorial titled the MLOps Strategic Guide for IT Professionals. Now this explainer is specifically crafted for IT professionals and IT management. We're going to give you a really solid foundational understanding of MLOps, and more importantly, the fundamentals of how to actually implement it in your environment. We are going to strictly break down exactly what is in Chapter 2 of this blueprint today, so we can finally stop treating machine learning like some fragile science experiment and start treating it like robust, enterprise-grade software. So where are we getting all this great information? Our source material for this entire analysis comes directly from Virtualization Options, LLC, which is a Colorado-based technology research, education, and advisory organization. They've put together an incredibly comprehensive guide, and their insights form the absolute backbone of the strategies we're going to unpack right now. But before we get into the nuts and bolts, I want to start with a staggering piece of data from the source. Seriously, brace yourselves for this. 87% of machine learning models fail to ever reach production. Think about that for a second. All that intense data wrangling, all those incredibly expensive compute hours, all that top-tier data science talent, and nearly 9 out of 10 projects never even see the light of day. They literally just die in a lab. This explainer is all about how we directly address the operational, cultural, and tooling gaps that are responsible for this massive failure rate. To fix that, today's executive briefing covers 6 strategic pillars: the MLOps imperative, automating the ML pipeline, deployment and CI/CD strategy, infrastructure, security and monitoring, structuring your MLOps team, and finally, the 6-step MLOps roadmap. These are the core pillars that will help you stop those failures and actually scale your ML systems effectively. All right, let's kick things off with Section 1, the MLOps imperative, bridging ML and operations. What exactly is MLOps? At its core, MLOps is the foundational discipline that bridges machine learning research with reliable, real-world production systems. It basically takes the proven, strict rigor of DevOps, things like automation, continuous integration, continuous delivery, and continuous monitoring, and applies it to the highly unpredictable, incredibly iterative world of data science and the full ML lifecycle. Now, you might be thinking, isn't that just DevOps? Well, not exactly. The crucial point here is the massive difference between traditional software and machine learning. While DevOps primarily focuses on managing code, MLOps has a much heavier lift. It has to version, test, and deploy 3 first-class artifacts with equal rigor: the code, the data, and the models themselves. If literally any one of these 3 elements changes, your entire system changes. And this journey from ad hoc to automated is totally fascinating. The source outlines 3 maturity levels. Level 0 is entirely manual, heavily notebook-driven, with 0 automation. Honestly, this is where most enterprises are starting out today. Level 1 introduces automated training pipelines, so models retrain on new data automatically. But Level 2, that's the holy grail. That is full CI/CD for machine learning, where pipeline changes trigger automated retraining, evaluation, and deployment without any human intervention. And get this, organizations that reach mature MLOps practices deploy models 6 times faster and reduce failure rates by up to 60%. That is a game changer for your ROI. Moving right along to Section 2, automating the ML pipeline, eliminating manual handoffs. Think of pipeline automation as the strictest bouncer at a club for your production environment. It completely eliminates manual handoffs. For instance, automated data validation using tools like Great Expectations enforces schema contracts. It blocks corrupt data or null values right at the door before they ever enter training. Then you have automated hyperparameter tuning to find optimal configurations without endless manual trial and error. And crucially, you absolutely need automated evaluation gates. If a newly trained model fails to meet strict performance thresholds, the automation simply blocks it from advancing. This entirely prevents degraded models from accidentally slipping into production. Now, a really interesting concept the source highlights here is the feature store, specifically the dual storage architecture. When you're managing data for ML, you have an offline store like a data warehouse or S3, which is heavily optimized for batch training with massive datasets. But for real-time predictions, you need an online store like Redis or DynamoDB for sub-millisecond retrieval. This dual architecture is brilliant because it guarantees consistency. Both stores are served from a single feature definition, which completely eliminates that nasty architectural skew between training and production. Okay, let's jump into Section 3, deployment and CI/CD strategy, pushing models live. When it's finally time to deploy, you absolutely cannot just overwrite the old model and hope for the best. You have 3 main deployment strategies in your toolkit. First, blue/green provides a zero downtime swap between old and new model versions, allowing for a full rollback in seconds if things go south. Then there's the canary deployment. This is a gradual traffic shift, say 5% of users, then 25%, then 100%, with automated rollbacks if your metrics start tanking. Finally, the shadow deployment, where a new model runs in parallel. It receives live traffic but doesn't actually serve predictions to users. This allows for entirely risk-free validation in real production conditions before you flip the switch. Next up is Section 4, Infrastructure, Security, and Monitoring, Governing the Environment. Let's talk money for a second, because we all know ML compute gets incredibly expensive incredibly fast. From a purely infrastructural ROI standpoint, the source makes a great point. While you absolutely need heavy GPU instances for deep learning, utilizing CPU clusters, and specifically spot or preemptible compute instances for your classical ML training can yield up to 70% in cost savings. That is a massive optimization for IT management to consider when structuring their cloud environments. But here's the big question. Once a model is live and governed, why do they suddenly start failing? This is a fundamental challenge for IT teams. It rarely breaks the way a traditional application crashes. Instead, it degrades due to something called concept drift, where real-world patterns change. Think about fraud patterns evolving over time, or sudden economic shifts altering default rates. The other massive culprit? Silent upstream pipeline failures. Maybe a missing column or stale data corrupts your inputs, but because it's data and not code, it doesn't trigger a traditional infrastructure alert. So, to combat this silent degradation, you have to build a robust alerting and retraining strategy. You start by defining strict service-level objectives, or SLOs. For example, you might stipulate that accuracy must not drop more than 5% from the baseline, or latency must stay under 200 milliseconds. Then, you set up automated retraining triggers based on those SLOs. This could be a scheduled retraining, a trigger based on a performance breach, or a trigger based on data volume, like acquiring a certain number of new labeled samples. Which brings us to Section 5, Structuring Your MLOps Team, the People Pillar. Because let's be honest, the most advanced automation in the world will still fail without the right organizational structure. You essentially have 2 competing models here. A centralized platform team serves multiple product groups, ensuring amazing consistency and governance at scale. On the flip side, embedded MLOps places engineers directly within product teams, offering much faster iteration and way closer business alignment, though you do risk inconsistency. The source guide strongly recommends a hybrid model. A central platform team provides the standardized tooling, and embedded practitioners actually apply those tools right within the specific product teams. For the management folks tuning in, how do you actually measure if this team structure and tooling is working? Well, you track these core KPIs. We already talked about deployment speed, aiming for that 6x faster benchmark compared to ad hoc workflows. But day-to-day operations really hinge on MTTD, mean time to detect a model degradation in production, and MTTR, mean time to recover from that incident. Shrinking those 2 windows is the ultimate hallmark of a highly mature MLOps team. All right, the final stretch, Section 6, the 6-step MLOps roadmap from assessment to execution. This roadmap builds logically, step by step. Step 1, assess your current state to identify missing versioning or siloed tooling. Step 2, define a realistic target state for the next 12 to 18 months. Don't try to over-engineer it right out of the gate. Step 3, platform selection, where you evaluate build versus buy for your cloud tools. Step 4, pilot with a high-value use case to clearly demonstrate ROI. Step 5, standardize and scale those successful pilot patterns across all your ML teams. And finally, Step 6, measure and iterate on those core KPIs we just discussed to justify continued investment. This entire 6-step roadmap and all the infrastructure and automation we've discussed today points toward one overarching, incredible long-term vision: fully automated, self-healing ML systems. We're talking about systems where data drift automatically triggers retraining, which then triggers evaluation, which finally triggers deployment, with humans only stepping into the loop for high-risk decisions. So I leave you with this final provocative thought to ponder for your own organization. Are you actively designing your IT roadmap today to achieve this ultimate end state of a self-healing system tomorrow? Or are you still just desperately trying to avoid being part of that 87% failure rate? Think about it. Thanks for joining this explainer, and we'll see you in the next one.